We got a massive Dallas Cowboys update as Jerry Jones, who appeared on Dallas radio just a day ago, has revealed his master plan for Sunday's contest against the Baltimore Ravens. Is he playing chess and we're all playing checkers? We'll break that down and much more on this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and we've had a little bit more time to digest that loss against the New Orleans Saints. It was not pretty. It still isn't pretty, and to be honest with you, I don't want to look at that game tape ever again. I want to put that on the back burner. I want to burn that game film and pretend that it never existed, and I want to do the same thing with the Green Bay playoff loss as well, the multiple Green Bay playoff losses, but whatever, I'll digress. Well, let's look ahead to next week against the Baltimore Ravens, but before we do that, I want to let you know that around 85% of you who are watching these videos are not subscribed, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and leave me your support. It allows me to make these daily videos for you, and it allows me to bring you daily Cowboys content that you won't want to miss heading into game day, reacting to game days. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It means the world to me, and I could really appreciate if you could go ahead and do that. But let's get straight into the video right here. And Jerry Jones, he was talking about Dalvin Cook, and according to ESPN's Dan Graziano, the Cowboys will consider whether adding veteran speedster Dalvin Cook, who is currently on their practice squad, will boost their rushing attack that is led by Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle. The Cowboys' run game is a problem, and they know they need to get more out of it, Graziano stated. They like the way Dalvin Cook has looked since they signed him to the practice squad, and they haven't ruled out the possibility of activating him on the roster if they don't get more production out of Zeke and Rico at some point. Now, this is a very interesting quote here by Dan Graziano, and he goes on to say, while Cook's age appears to be catching up with him, he's still a four-time Pro Bowler who can be effective in the right situation. Graziano noted that it's unlikely that he will be on the roster for Sunday's game against the Ravens, but another lackluster performance would prompt the Cowboys to evaluate whether he'd be an improvement over their current crop of running backs. That move doesn't sound likely to happen this week, but if they struggle to run the ball against the Ravens on Sunday, which, spoiler alert, they probably will because the Ravens have the most stout defensive line and run game defense in the league, only allowing 99 yards in their first two games against the Chiefs and the Raiders. Don't be surprised if Cook ends up getting a look, he stated. So I'm going to err on the side of caution here and say that it's not going to happen this week, and I don't think this is the answer to all of their problems. And if you watch that game against New Orleans on Sunday, the running game was the least of their worries. It was stopping the running game that was a massive issue for them, dating all the way back to last season and maybe even the season prior to that one. Every time they come up against a dynamic running back, they struggle to get stops, and they're not a hefty defensive line in terms of just overall weight. They struggle. They got overpowered by a bigger and meaner offensive line, and that was reflected in the scoreline. So, yeah, Dalvin Cook would be, I think, a nice addition, just having that experience in the backfield. But the number one thing that the Cowboys need to figure out here is that defense. And I thought it was different after that Week 1 performance. But the Browns had a lot of offensive linemen missing. And they didn't have their starting running back either. So they didn't necessarily have the weapons that they needed to have to exploit the Cowboys' deficiencies on defense, and that was reflected in the scoreline as well. But then you come up against a New Orleans team who just spanked the Carolina Panthers in Week 1. They're hot, they're feeling themselves, and they're ready to go. And then you just see Alvin Kamara pop off for 4 touchdowns. So that's the two ends of the spectrum here. And you take a look at Dalvin Cook's stats, 4-time Pro Bowler, as Graziano mentioned, most recently in 2022. So he's had a lot of 1,000-yard rushing seasons with multiple touchdowns, and he is solid. There's no doubt about that. But at 29 years old right now, his best days are behind him, and he's no longer that speedster that Graziano was referring to. So the yards per attempt were very good up until last season, where he averaged 3.2 yards per carry in limited playing time with the Jets and the Baltimore Ravens. Didn't even play with the Baltimore Ravens. So maybe it could be a get-back game for him, saying, hey, should never got rid of me. But they got Derrick Henry, so I think they're doing all right. But they are 0-2. They are 0-2, and they're going to need a shakeup as well heading into Week 3. So these are two teams that are going to be pissed off, or at least you would think so in the Cowboys' case, and it's going to be an absolute bloodbath between the Ravens and the Cowboys. I can't wait for it. Now we got Jerry Jones speaking on the matter. We were pleased, Jerry Jones said, of the running back group's performance on Sunday against the Saints, despite the group only rushing for 57 yards in a 44-19 defeat. Now, I will give them that you're probably not going to run the ball when you're down as much as they were down, so which may be why the running yards were skewed, and they didn't look too good when comparing them to the Saints. When asked directly if a trade or outside signing could be made, such as the one Kansas City made on Tuesday morning in acquiring Kareem Hunt, Jones continued to praise his group. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. I like where we are with our running backs. We have good depth. We just didn't get to see them run on Sunday. So he's right. He's right. They didn't really have the chance to run, even though the Saints have a very stout defensive front. That was never in the Cowboys' game plan because they were down so much so early. So you just can't really establish a run game at that point. And we take a look at his final quote here. An additional personnel wrinkle that the Cowboys have available is four-time Pro Bowl running back Dalvin Cook, who is signed to practice squad before season. And when asked if his availability could be looked at going forward, Jones continued to offer more confidence into the running backs already on the active roster. I don't see a change that could involve Dalvin Cook this week. This week, he did say. So maybe the clock is ticking on Zeke Elliott and Rico Dowdle to figure something out here and establish themselves in this run game. But the Cowboys' offensive line has been all right. I mean, the run game has been lackluster at best. And the offense, very hard to get stuff going when the defense is giving up 44 points and you're constantly in an uphill climb and trying to make things happen out of nothing. So it's going to be a real tough test in Week 2 against the Baltimore Ravens. I cannot wait for this. I just want to erase this last game out of my memory against the New Orleans Saints, and I want to look ahead to Week 3, but that's tough to do because the Ravens are no slouch, and like I mentioned earlier, they are 0-2. They're going to be hungry heading into that Week 3 matchup, and their playoff odds could be looking pretty bleak if they start the season 0-3 and the Steelers find another way to win here. So the season is not over. I'm not going to overreact after one or two losses, but you put yourself in a much more favorable position to make the playoffs if you're 2-1 as opposed to 1-2 heading into another tough matchup the week after that. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of Cowboys Digest. Again, thank you all so much for the support. Well, you guys have been killing it. We're almost at 300 subscribers, and we're not even 2 weeks into the channel's inception. So thank you all so much for that, and I really appreciate all the support. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and give me your thoughts. Should Dalvin Cook be in the starting lineup or be active next week against his former team, the Baltimore Ravens? But thank you guys so much for the support. Really appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow, and go Cowboys.